Susan?
Yeah, hi.
Hi. Welcome to Gigi and the 561. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm very excited to have our little podcast today.
Well, it's indeed my pleasure.
Thank you. To my listeners, I want to tell them just a little bit about our guest today, Susan Goldfein, and what you've done quite a bit, and we have a lot to talk about. But you had one big career, and then you completely changed gears and went another direction. And Susan is a writer, an award-winning writer of books, and she is a very successful blogger of humor, and took a career that was not exactly that. Your career was you hold a doctorate in communication disorders from Teachers College, Columbia University, and that was you were a teacher and a consultant and totally doing not what you're doing now, right?
That is true. Yes, that's absolutely true. Fate took me in a completely different direction after I retired. That's exactly what happened.
It has a way of doing that, doesn't it? But I think why I really wanted to have you as a guest, because right now I think we have never needed humor more. And I love the title of your blog. It is Unfiltered Wit. And I think that is absolutely perfect. I just don't think that we have ever needed humor, not in my lifetime, more than right now. So, boy, you've been doing it, though. I mean, you didn't just start it during this pandemic, obviously. But
no.
During this pandemic, it has been really nice. And you're funny, and you're very, very you're very topical. You're very spot on with your blog posts. At least I find them to be very, very, very topical.
Well, the inspiration really does come from everyday life and what's going on right now, really. And there's no end to. And I agree with you completely about needing humor right now more than ever. It does take the edge off.
It really does, and I have to say one thing, that a quote that you put in one of your blog posts really jumped off the page at me, because I use humor. I love humor. I love being around that, and I have a bit of a sarcastic humor that not everyone gets all the time. But I loved this quote that you included. The older you get, I have to say, the funnier you find life. That's the only way to go. If you get serious about yourself as you get old, you are pathetic. That's a Diana Rigg quote.
Yes.
And I love it. I love it, Susan. I think that is so true.
Yeah, I came upon that in a New York Times article where they were talking about notable people who had passed away during 2020, and each one had a quote attributable to them. And I read this one from Diana Rigg, and I thought, how perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Because from the day I started my blog, which is now 9 years ago, that basically was what underlied my efforts. As here I was in what they call the third stage of life, and as you get older, of course, you adapt to the many changes that are happening both within you and in your life, and not all of them are positive, truthfully.
Sure.
But if you're going to in a sense moan and groan about your aches and pains and the fact that you need cataract surgery or whatever it is that comes up as we get older, it's just going to make things much, much worse. Mm-hmm. So I found that to approach these changes and plus other things, I just felt that getting older kind of gave me a right to have a kind of a squinted eye look at things that were going on around me, and like I say, be maybe a little bit sarcastic at times, certainly snarky. It, it's fun. I'm sorry, but it's really
it is fun, and as in one of your descriptions of you, it's a sideways view of life, and I think that is kind of the way it should be, because nothing is ever upright 100% of the time. And so being able to bend and flex, and like you did when you came to a point where things career-wise were changing for you, like all of us, that at some point we all go through, well, this is a new day, what do I do now? And I love the fact, I laughed really and chuckled because you threw away the self-help books and you picked up catalogs about classes to take, which led you into your writing class that kind of began the little nugget of your pathway.
Yeah, that's right. That's what happened. I was I had to stop working a little bit before I was quite ready to, because of budgetary cuts in the place where I had my last employment, and I was really the whole idea of being a retired person was something I couldn't swallow at the time. Mm-hmm. I've been working practically my whole adult life with time off to raise little children, but then going back to work as quickly as I could. So suddenly there was this empty space in front of me that I really didn't know how to fill. Plus, we wound up, we had been part-time residents of Florida, and we were more full-time residents, and I had that to adjust to as well. So it was a big change, a big transition time in my life, and I was looking for something and accidentally really found this writing class at the Kravis Center. And I started writing these 2- and 3-page essays in response to class assignments, basically. And, I didn't plan it, but they would come out funny. And the instructor of the class was very encouraging to me. She said, I think maybe you found your voice, and maybe this is what you should consider doing. And I basically took her up on it, and that's what launched this whole new phase of my life, I guess. So at first, starting the blog and figuring out how to create all of this was brand new stuff to me. Mm-hmm. I had absolutely no idea. It was a new world that I was entering, and finding the right people to help me, and it was an adventure, but it worked out well.
Well, I love adventures. And what are the things that you are more drawn to in your humorous writing? Are there things that are off limits, things that are you just will not write about?
Well, yes. I won't say ever never, but what I've steered clear of, first of all, is politics. Okay. And I'm really kind of glad I made that decision when I did, because over the past 4 years, things have gotten very heated. Mm-hmm. So, and besides, there are satirists out there who are doing a much better job at it than I ever could, and I just decided, well, I'm just going to leave it to them. And so politics is something I try to steer clear of, although I have dabbled in it very gently, maybe 3 or 4 times, and have made a couple of people angry along the way, so I try not to go there. The other thing is my family. I got plenty to write about it. if I turn to my family, we are a blended family. It's a long-term second marriage, but I have 3 stepchildren, including my own 2 children, and I can't say that it's been a sleigh ride the whole way. It hasn't. And there were so many instances that I could have written about, but I didn't want to. I decided no. There is one exception to that, though, and that's my husband. as he puts it, oh, I let her pick on me. And, and I do. All the foibles that come along with a marriage, and all the little things that you complain about, and how many times you could have gotten into a bickering or a quibbling, issue. But I try to see the light side, and then I might write about it. So,
well, I'll tell you this, your blog about streaming and how we're dealing with what we're watching during this pandemic and how we're binging and all of that had me laughing out loud. It truly did, because I am a huge watcher of, I'm not much of a television person. I don't turn it on during the day, stuff like that, but huge watcher of British mysteries, and you just absolutely nailed it. I mean, I was going, yep, because it was like, as you said something about they seem to get to wear their own clothing. People get to come and go as at will, and in every little scenic village that looks so pretty, there are tons of murders. It was very, very spot on with the British mysteries that we're all watching during this streaming when we're just out of everything to watch.
Yeah, they do it well. The Brits really do it very well. They do when it comes to these detective shows and this police procedural.
I totally agree with you. They ruin it for any of the American shows. But I want to talk about something that also really caught my eye in reading your information, doing research on you. Your dog Sam looks like he's just the cutest ever. He's a terrier. Is he a Jack Russell?
Yes, he is what's called a rough coat Russell Terrier. So he's not. When you think of a Jack Russell, you mostly think of the jumpy dogs with the long, slightly long legs and a very smooth coat. Well, he's another off-breed of that kind of Russell. He's shorter and he's furrier, and he is the cutest thing on wheels. There's no doubt about it. he is adorable. And people stop me on the street when I'm out walking him all the time to, just.
Oh, that is so perfect.
They never say, "Oh, your dog is so cute," and I say, "Well, what about me?"
People are just cruel. They're just very cruel. And I do have to tell you something else that I really, really liked. You are an award-winning book author as well, and you have 2 books, and the titles are fantastic. And the art on one of them is especially compelling to me. Would you talk about your books a little bit, and then I'll tell you why I think that one cover is just is so perfect.
Yes,
tell us about those books.
I will talk about my books, and just know that they are for sale on Amazon. So
yes, they are.
They're easily accessible. The books came, the first book particularly came at the encouragement of a friend of mine who has also been a reader of my essays since I started. And she put the bug in my head about, why don't you, take some of these essays and put them between 2 covers. It would be so much fun. And I kind of dismissed it at first as a wacky idea, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought, why not? And so I sat down and went through everything I had written up to that point and basically picked out 50 of the ones I thought were my best and decided to do a book with them, and that's what I did. And I called the first book How Old Am I in Dog Years?
Love that.
Because I picked that title from one of the essays that is in the book that I wrote about. It was during the time that we owned 2 Labrador retrievers. We've always had dogs. I'm a big dog person. Part of my, I don't feel complete unless I have a dog in the house. So I had these 2 Labrador retrievers that we acquired one year and then decided that the male dog definitely needed company. So a year later we got the second one. And they were wonderful animals, really wonderful. And when we first got them, of course, they were puppies, and we were not exactly young ourselves. And there were so many times that I wondered, what did we do? Did we make this terrible mistake? These dogs were running us ragged. I mean, it was just, well, if you've ever raised a puppy, you know what it's like. It's like a toddler.
It is.
Yeah, it's definitely like a toddler. And here I was, a grandparent, and I shouldn't be raising a toddler anymore. But as time went on, what I realized, because obviously dogs age more quickly than people do, what I realized over time that the dogs caught up with us. And the things that my husband and I were experiencing, the dogs were experiencing.
Oh, interesting.
And it's just like one of the dogs developed a hearing loss. Well, my husband has a hearing loss. One of my dogs developed a limp because she developed arthritis. Well, so did I. And, there were just these features that we started having in common. So I wrote an essay about that and called it How Old Am I in Dog Years, which is the reverse of saying how old dogs are in people years, what we always do, and just how we suddenly became the same age, So I thought it would make a good title, and the editor my editor agreed with me, and that's how that book came to be. It did win a few awards. The books were what is now called independently published, which means that it's a fancy way of saying it was self-published, that I didn't go through a traditional publisher.
Right.
And in the field of independent publishing, there are awards. And my book won 2 or 3 awards in the humor category in several different what we call contests. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah. So that was kind of gave me confidence, and that maybe I was doing something right.
Yeah.
And then a few years later, I decided not to be a one-trick pony. I decided to do the second book. And again, the title, How to Complain When There's Nothing to Complain About, came from one of the essays that's in the book. And the thing is, I based my whole premise of what I write about, in a sense, complaining about something or commenting on something, as I commented on the streaming. And one day I came to a deadline where I was supposed to have a new essay ready, and I had nothing to write about. Nothing to complain about, nothing to write about. I didn't have a topic at all. And I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning thinking, what am I going to write about? And I said, well, why don't I write about having nothing to write about, or basically having nothing to complain about? Well, that's what I did, and hence it became the title of the book. So
it's a great title, and I love the art on the cover, because I feel like when I looked at it, it's like I feel like that's sort of where some of us may be in this pandemic. It's like with the bubble above the head of both the doctor and the patient, with nothing in it, just blank. And and I thought that's sort of so fitting, because while we can't travel and we can't do things normal with our families, and we've had a lot of change since the pandemic. But on the other hand, we have so much to be grateful for. So and that's really, when I looked at that, I thought that just kind of sums up those two empty conversation bubbles above the character's heads. I thought it was great art.
Yes, thank you.
And
I thought it summed it up perfectly.
Oh, it does. It absolutely does. And I do want to talk a little bit about food, because I'm telling you, I never have read. Gary and I cook a lot, but your description of, and correct me if I'm saying this wrong, of latke, Did I say that right?
Yes.
Latkes?
Okay. Yes.
And you refer to it as being in the description. It's a lot to it, but you said sensual. You used the word sensual, and I thought that was such a descriptive way to talk about this potato pancake. Basically, it's like by the time you finish in the kitchen, the stuff is everywhere, but it's so satisfying. The actual end product is. I loved it, Susan. It was brilliant.
Oh, yeah. Well, I am moved every December. Mostly it's December. When the holiday of the Jewish celebration of Hanukkah comes along, which frequently coincides with Christmas. I think, somehow there was a conspiracy there, that they're too familiar because it's all about lights,
right.
It's all about lighting up the darkness, basically.
Yeah.
A very traditional food for Hanukkah is the potato pancake. And it's really about the oil, because the story of Hanukkah is how there was only enough oil to burn for one night, but miraculously in the temple that they saved, the oil burned for 8 nights. It's the eternal light that's always supposed to be lit in a synagogue. And the oil somehow miraculously lasted for 8 days. So we celebrate the oil. So once a year we're allowed to eat fried food. That's basically what it is. And I say we're allowed. I mean, we give ourselves permission to eat fried food.
Right. Yeah.
Take an extra statin and go eat something fried.
Yeah.
So I am very moved every December to make these potatoes. They're called latkes in Yiddish, as opposed to pancakes. And it is, it's a messy experience, but it is. I do find it a very sensual experience.
I loved it. I was there in the kitchen with you. It was so descriptive of what you were going through to make these, and it's like, now I want one. It's like, now I need to have one of these. Oh, it was great. It was absolutely great. Now, tell us something, if you want to. You don't have to. That perhaps people don't know about you, because there's an awful lot about you out there in all of your work, in all of your blogging, your books. Is there anything that we need to know that perhaps we don't know?
Oh, my. Let me think.
Or even just something that you would like to tell the listeners about, just a word of advice for them as maybe they're transitioning from one thing in life to another, whatever.
Okay. Well, I can probably answer both parts of that.
Okay.
I think I've already revealed, but just in case I haven't, my 2 addictions in life, besides my dog Sam, but my 2 addictions are crossword puzzles and Law and Order reruns.
Oh, no, okay.
Yeah, I know I've written about Law and Order reruns on a few occasions. So that may not be a great big secret. But I can't get enough of them. Even if I've seen them 3 times and I know exactly what's going to happen, I am compelled to watch.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But anyway, in terms of advice about people in transition, I think the thing that I had to overcome more than anything when I took this writing thing on more seriously and thought I would make I won't say a career out of it, but yeah, I guess it's become kind of that, was my age. And thinking to myself, am I too old to start something new, really? And then the questioning yourself, do I really, and then there's the thing of, do I need this in my life? Do I really need this?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm retired. I'm finally able to say that word without choking on it. And do I really need something else that's going to consume me at this point in my life? I could be learning how to play canasta. I could be reading more books, or whatever it is I choose to do. And ultimately, none of the above was satisfying, and I had to throw myself into something. But the age thing, I think is what I would want to comment on is don't think you're too old to start something new.
Yeah, totally agree. Mm-hmm.
Just don't.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll know when it's time to stop, but there's no number of candles on the birthday cake and no dates on the calendar that can tell you that you are too old to start something new.
Absolutely agree. Totally agree. Susan, it's been so much fun having you as my guest today, and just your writing is just so needed right now. I am going to tell the listeners that we can find you on, and correct me if any of this needs to be updated or anything, SusanUnfilteredWit.com is your website. Of course, you can find Susan on our website, NorthPalmBeachLife.com as well. She's a contributor on our website, and we're so appreciative. You're on Facebook, and be able to find you the same way. Unfiltered Wit is you on Facebook and on Twitter by the same name. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you again. You have been a delightful guest, and I look forward to many more wonderfully funny and informative and blog posts that I can totally relate to. So keep it up. Keep it up.
I'll do my very best, I promise.
Thank you. Don't let us down. We need that wit. Thanks, Susan.
Okay. Thanks for the opportunity, Pam.
Thank you. Susan Goldfein is the author of 2 award-winning collections of humorous personal essays, How Old Am I in Dog Years and How to Complain When There's Nothing to Complain About. Check her out. You need this joy in your life. Don't forget to visit us at NorthPalmBeachLife.com, where we have Susan and so many other things. You already know that if you're a listener. So keep going to that page. The podcasts are always there, as well as at iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, and many other platforms. We appreciate you for doing that and following along with us as we bring you delightful guests such as Susan. Rewind back. We have many other guest podcasts all through the month of January. You'll need to listen to them as well. Be sure to do that. And if you're just hanging out with your iPad in your lap, go to YouTube and find NorthPalmBeachLife.com. Same name. We have some fun videos there. But mostly, stay tuned.